Have you ever felt that someone around you is not what they seem? Could this person be sabotaging your life without you even realizing it? In this video, I will reveal how to identify the characteristics of malicious people who may be around you, manipulating, draining your energy, and affecting your peace. You will learn to recognize the subtle signs that these people display and how to protect yourself from their negative influences. By watching until the end, you will gain clarity on who is truly around you, ensuring healthier relationships and a more balanced life. If you have doubts about someone close to you or have gone through situations where you felt manipulated, this video will help you see the truth and make safer decisions. Stay alert and discover how to protect your energy and well-being. But first, I ask you to subscribe to the channel and comment below with your city so I can see how far my message is reaching. Definition of malignant person. When we talk about a malignant person, the first thing that comes to mind is the idea of someone who intentionally does evil. But beyond a simple definition, a malignant person is someone whose behaviors aim to harm others, often in subtle and insidious ways. This malignancy manifests not only in actions but also in words and thoughts. It's as if there is a shadow that follows this person, obscuring emotional intelligence and the ability to genuinely connect with others. To understand better, imagine someone who appears kind and friendly on the surface, but who, behind smiles, is always scheming ways to manipulate the people around them. This person may present themselves as a friend, but soon reveals themselves to be a manipulator who only cares about their own interests. It's fascinating and at the same time frightening how these individuals manage to camouflage their true nature. They become experts at creating a facade that deceives even the most attentive. Furthermore, malignancy is not a fixed trait. It can arise in different contexts and at various intensities. A person who may seem harmless in one environment can transform into someone deeply harmful in another. This makes it even more challenging to identify them, as appearances can be extremely misleading. Sometimes malignancy disguises itself as concern or love, making it difficult to distinguish between the genuine and the manipulative. It is important to remember that the definition of a malignant person is not limited to violent actions or extreme behaviors. Often it is the more subtle behaviors that cause more damage in the long run. Betrayal of trust, for example, can be a form of malignancy that leaves deep scars, even if it does not involve a physical act of violence. This type of emotional damage is often overlooked, but it can be devastating. Finally, considering context and intention is crucial. Often, a person may act malignantly without realizing it. However, this does not diminish the impact of their actions on others. It is this aspect of malignancy that makes the issue so complex and intriguing. Reflecting on these behaviors and their consequences is essential for us to better understand the dynamics between people, and thus, protect ourselves from negative influences. Signs of malicious behavior. When we think of signs of malicious behavior, one of the first things that stands out is constant manipulation. This is a classic technique used by malicious individuals for control and domination. They often take advantage of others' insecurities and weaknesses, creating situations where the victim feels guilty or inferior. It's almost like a dance. The malicious person leads the other to believe that their emotions and reactions are not valid, causing the victim to doubt themselves. Another clear sign is a lack of empathy. A malicious person has difficulty putting themselves in someone else's shoes, understanding or caring about others' feelings. When someone is going through a tough time, and the malicious person responds with indifference or worse, sarcasm, that is a strong indication that their intentions are not good. This lack of empathy can manifest in dismissive comments or cold behavior, which only serves to increase the other person's pain. In addition to manipulation and lack of empathy, lies and deceit are common tools in the arsenal of a malicious person. Often they weave a web of lies that serves to confuse and disorient their victims. This can include small everyday lies or large deceptions involving unfulfilled promises and betrayals. The ability to lie convincingly is impressive, and it is one of the reasons why so many people fall into their traps. These malicious behaviors are not limited to direct interactions. Often these individuals also engage in gossip and intrigue, spreading misinformation about those they consider threats or competitors. This creates a toxic environment where trust is eroded and relationships deteriorate. The ability to sow discord is a hallmark characteristic and often underestimated trait of malicious people. Finally, it is important to note that these signs can manifest in different ways depending on the situation. What may be a clear sign of malicious behavior in one relationship may not be as evident in another. However, by bringing together these elements, we can begin to build a profile that helps us identify and, if necessary, distance ourselves from individuals who have the capacity to cause significant emotional and psychological harm. Identifying a malevolent person. Identifying a malevolent person can be a challenging task, especially since they often present themselves as normal or even charming individuals. However, there are some characteristics that can help distinguish these individuals. The first step is to pay attention to their behavior in different contexts. If you notice someone acting radically differently in distinct situations, it may be a sign that something is amiss. A person who is kind and gentle in public but transforms into someone controlling and critical in private deserves your attention. Another important aspect to consider is how this person treats others. The way someone behaves towards those in vulnerable positions can be revealing. Malevolent individuals often disdain or exploit those they consider inferior, while treating the powerful with excessive courtesy. This dynamic can be a good indicator that the person lacks true morality or ethics. Additionally, observe how this person reacts to criticism or situations that are out of their control. Malevolent people tend to react defensively, often attacking those who criticize them or trying to divert attention to others' faults. This blame shifting is a common strategy they use to escape responsibility for their own actions. If you notice that a person never admits their mistakes and is always placing blame on others, it may be a sign of malevolent behavior. Unfulfilled promises are also a clear indicator. A person who constantly makes promises but never follows through is demonstrating a lack of respect and consideration. This practice not only erodes trust, but can also lead to a cycle of emotional manipulation. If you find yourself always waiting for something that never happens, it may be time to reevaluate that relationship. Finally, it is crucial to trust your instincts. Often, our subconscious picks up on signals that our conscious mind does not notice. If you feel uncomfortable or insecure in someone's presence, it is important to pay attention to those feelings and investigate further. Intuition can be a powerful tool in identifying malevolent individuals and can protect us from harmful relationships. Strategies to protect yourself from malicious people. Protecting yourself from malicious people is an essential step in preserving your mental and emotional health. The first strategy I can suggest is to establish clear boundaries. This means defining what you consider acceptable or unacceptable in a relationship. Malicious individuals often try to overstep these boundaries, so it is crucial to have a solid line of defense. When you clearly communicate your boundaries and stand firm, it becomes more difficult for them to manipulate or control you. Another important strategy is to cultivate a support network. Having friends and family who understand your challenges and can provide a critical perspective on the situation is extremely valuable. They can help validate your experiences and offer advice that you may not have considered. Additionally, this network can be a source of comfort and support when you feel vulnerable or threatened by the influence of a malicious person. The practice of self-affirmation is also crucial. Recognizing your worth and abilities can help reinforce your self-esteem, making you less susceptible to manipulation tactics. When you believe in yourself, it becomes easier to identify abusive behaviors and distance yourself from them. This self-confidence is a powerful barrier against malignancy, as people who feel secure in themselves tend to be less manipulable. Moreover, it is essential to always pay attention to your emotions. If you start to feel anxious, insecure, or depressed in someone's presence, it may be a sign that this person is unhealthy for you. Do not ignore these signs. Instead, reflect on what is causing these feelings and consider if it is time to distance yourself. Self-awareness is a powerful tool to prevent malicious people from influencing your life. Finally, in extreme cases, it may be necessary to seek professional help. A therapist or counselor can offer valuable insights and personalized strategies for dealing with malicious individuals in your life. Therapy can help develop coping skills and strengthen your emotional resilience. Do not hesitate to seek this help. You deserve to be surrounded by people who respect and value you. Signs of malignant behavior. When we talk about signs of malignant behavior, it's as if we're trying to decipher a secret code. Sometimes people are not who they seem, and this becomes evident when we start to observe certain behavioral patterns. One of the first signs that comes to my mind is constant manipulation. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you were being pulled back and forth, as if your decisions weren't yours? This is a common feeling when faced with someone who manipulates every interaction in search of control. This manipulation can be subtle, like seemingly harmless comments that are actually intended to destabilize the other person. Manipulation can manifest in various ways. Sometimes the malignant person uses excessive praise to gain the victim's trust, and then starts making criticisms that are, in fact, disguises for emotional control. It's a well-crafted psychological game. I remember a friend who was in such a relationship. His partner always told him he was the best at everything, but soon after, She would launch criticisms about his choices. The line between support and manipulation is very thin, and often the victim is led to believe that they are wrong in their perceptions and feelings. Moreover, a striking characteristic of people with malignant behavior is the lack of empathy. This absence of understanding for others' suffering is a clear sign that something is wrong. I recall a situation where a coworker constantly belittled the achievements of others. She didn't seem to care about the effort that her colleagues put into their tasks. For her, success was a competition. This lack of empathy not only affects the group's dynamics, but can also have a profound impact on the self-esteem of those targeted by such behavior. What impresses me most is how this lack of empathy can be disguised under the mask of realism or pragmatism. In many cases, the lack of empathy also reflects an inability to acknowledge wrongdoing. A malignant person often does not accept that their actions may have caused pain to another person. Instead, they may invert the situation and make the victim feel guilty for having felt offended. This leads to emotional confusion and makes it difficult for the affected person to understand what is happening. I've been through this in some friendships where the friend managed to make me feel bad for feeling bad. It's a vicious cycle that can be very exhausting. Another sign we cannot overlook is lies and deceit. Lies are a powerful tool in the hands of malignant people. They not only lie to cover up their actions, but also to manipulate others' perceptions of reality. Once, a guy I knew always told stories that seemed too good to be true. Over time, I noticed a pattern. He often portrayed himself as the victim in his narratives, even when his actions were clearly wrong. This ability to distort the truth can create a toxic environment around the person, where everyone starts to doubt their own experiences and perceptions. Lies may start small, but over time, they become more complex and intertwined. The malignant person can weave a web of deceit that is difficult to dismantle. This, in turn, leads to distrust and uncertainty in relationships. I remember an episode when a group of friends began to distance themselves from someone who always brought dubious stories. The wear and tear on the relationships was gradual, but the constant lies eventually created a chasm that seemed impossible to cross. In the end, the truth always comes to light, but until that happens, those around can suffer greatly. Constant manipulation. Constant manipulation is one of the most insidious characteristics we can find in malign behaviors. It is fascinating, and at the same time terrifying, to see how some people have the ability to control the situations around them to meet their own needs. This manipulation is not just about getting what one desires. It is, in fact, a form of emotional control that can leave victims feeling confused and insecure. When I encountered someone like this, I realized that manipulation disguises itself as concern and affection. The person claimed they were just trying to help, but in reality, they were shaping my decisions to align with their interests. A clear example of this is when someone tries to impose their opinions insistently, making you feel that your own opinions are invalid. This type of behavior is exhausting and can lead you to start doubting yourself. I remember going through this with a friend who always suggested what I should do, but deep down, it was a disguised imposition. Over time, I realized I was losing my sense of autonomy. Manipulation, therefore, is not just a tactic of control, but a way to strip the other person of their individuality. Another aspect of constant manipulation is the use of guilt tactics. A malignant person can use guilt as a tool to maintain control over others. I recall a situation where a coworker always made comments about how others weren't doing enough, insinuating that their lack of effort was harming the group. This approach creates a pressure-filled atmosphere where people feel obligated to yield to the manipulative person's demands to avoid guilt. It is a vicious cycle that can lead to a toxic work environment. Furthermore, manipulation often involves a form of gaslighting, where the person makes the victim doubt their own sanity or perception of reality. When I began to realize that a close person was making me question my memories and emotions, I recognized that I was in a manipulative relationship. It is a disconcerting experience, and often victims are led to believe they are responsible for the situation when, in fact, they are dealing with someone who feeds off their emotional fragility. Finally, constant manipulation can lead to a state of emotional exhaustion. When you're always fighting against someone else's manipulation, it drains your energy and affects your mental health. It is like being in an invisible battlefield, where you never know when the next attack will occur. This made me reflect on the importance of setting boundaries and recognizing when a relationship is becoming harmful. Learning to identify these signs is the first step to protecting yourself and seeking healthier relationships. Lack of empathy. The lack of empathy is one of the most alarming traits we can observe in people with malicious behaviors. Empathy is fundamental to human relationships, and its absence turns interactions into cold and calculated experiences. When I encounter someone who seems incapable of putting themselves in someone else's shoes, it raises a red flag for me. This lack of empathy can be an insurmountable barrier, creating a disconnection that makes communication nearly impossible. It's as if this person lives in a separate world where the feelings of others hold no value. People who cannot demonstrate empathy often become selfish in their interactions. One example that comes to mind is a former boss who never acknowledged the team's efforts, even when we achieved significant results. Instead of celebrating our accomplishments, he focused solely on the failures. This lack of recognition can be demotivating and exhausting. It's frustrating to work hard and not have your efforts acknowledged, and this can lead to a toxic and demoralizing work environment. Moreover, the lack of empathy also reflects an inability to offer emotional support. In times of crisis, malicious individuals may distance themselves or even mock others' difficulties. I have witnessed situations where someone was going through a tough time and instead of receiving comfort, heard sarcastic comments that only worsened their situation. This not only increases the pain of the suffering person, but can also trigger feelings of loneliness and despair. Empathy is vital for creating bonds of solidarity and understanding, and its absence generates an emotional void. Another aspect to consider is the impact that lack of empathy can have on the mental health of victims. When we are constantly exposed to someone who does not care about our feelings, it can lead to anxiety and depression. In my experience, I have noticed that the lack of empathy affects not only the relationships between people, but also how each of us perceives ourselves. We may start to internalize this lack of care, questioning our worth and our ability to be loved. It is a cycle that perpetuates and intensifies over time. Finally, the absence of empathy can result in a hostile social environment. When the people around us do not care about the well-being of others, it can create a culture of indifference and isolation. I have been in groups where the lack of empathy made everything very difficult. Identifying a malicious person can be a challenge, especially because these individuals often camouflage themselves well within normal social behaviors. They may appear charming and charismatic at first glance, but there are certain signs that should not be ignored. One of the most evident aspects is the way they interact with others. If you notice someone frequently belittling or disregarding the feelings of others, this may be an indication of malicious intentions. These people often have an impressive ability to read others' emotions, but instead of showing empathy, they use that information to manipulate and hurt. Another sign to watch for is the tendency to always position themselves as the victim. This reversal of blame is a common tactic among malicious individuals. They have an almost supernatural ability to distort reality, making others feel guilty for situations they did not even cause. If you notice that someone constantly deflects criticism and makes you feel responsible for their reactions, that is a clear sign that something is wrong. Additionally, a lack of accountability is a marked characteristic. Malicious individuals often do not take responsibility for their failures and always seek a scapegoat for their mistakes. This inability to own up to their actions is often disguised with elaborate excuses or justifications that may initially seem valid, but, upon closer examination, prove to be superficial. This dynamic can create a toxic environment around you, where you start to question your own judgment and sanity. It is also important to pay attention to what we call nonverbal signs. Often, a person's body language can speak louder than their words. Facial expressions, postures, and even tone of voice can indicate hidden intentions. If the person seems to be enjoying themselves at your expense or shows a smile that doesn't reach their eyes, it may be a sign that their true nature is not as friendly as it appears. Finally, consistency is a factor that cannot be ignored. A malicious person may be kind one moment and aggressive the next, and it is this fluctuation in behavior that can leave you feeling confused. If you frequently find yourself questioning the authenticity of your interactions with someone, it is a sign that you need to be cautious. This emotional instability can be a powerful weapon in a malicious person's arsenal, making you feel insecure and vulnerable. Strategies to protect yourself from malicious people. Now that we know how to identify a malicious person, the next question is how to protect ourselves from them. The first strategy I consider vital is to establish clear boundaries. A malicious person will try to invade your personal and emotional space, and if you don't set limits, you risk becoming a victim. Saying no and being firm in your decisions are essential aspects of preserving your mental health. Often these people will test your boundaries, and if you give in, you will become increasingly vulnerable. Another effective strategy is the practice of self-awareness. Always be attentive to your feelings and reactions when you are around people you suspect to be malicious. If you notice that you start to feel anxious, insecure, or even guilty after interactions with someone, it's a sign that you need to reconsider that relationship. Self-knowledge is a powerful tool that can help you recognize unhealthy behavioral patterns. Communication also plays a crucial role in protection against malicious people. Openly discussing your concerns with friends or family can not only bring relief, but also provide a new perspective on the situation. Sometimes, simply verbalizing what is happening can help clarify your mind and assist you in making more rational decisions. Don't underestimate the power of an honest and direct conversation. In addition, it's important to cultivate a solid support network. Having people you trust and who understand your situation can be a great foundation. They can offer advice, emotional support, and even a critical perspective on the person you suspect to be malicious. This network can help you maintain perspective and avoid falling into emotional traps that these people often set. Lastly, self-care should not be neglected. Staying mentally and physically healthy is vital when dealing with malicious people. Practices such as meditation, physical exercise, and hobbies you love can help strengthen your emotional resilience. When you feel good about yourself, it becomes harder for malicious people to affect your self-esteem and confidence. The importance of seeking support and a support network seeking support in difficult times is essential, especially when dealing with malignant individuals. Often these relationships can be so draining that you may feel as if you are alone in the world. It is at this moment that the importance of a support network becomes evident. Having friends, family, or even support groups can provide a safe space to share your experiences and feelings. You do not have to carry this burden alone, and knowing that there are people around you who understand can be a great relief. Moreover, emotional support is a powerful tool against manipulation. Malignant individuals often isolate their victims, making them feel alone and without options. By seeking support, you create a barrier against this intimidation tactic. Having someone to talk to can help you see the situation from a new perspective and realize that you are not in a solitary battle. This support can be crucial in restoring your self-confidence and inner strength. Another point to highlight is the importance of sharing your concerns honestly and openly. When you talk about your experiences with trusted individuals, you may receive valuable feedback that can help you better understand the dynamics of the relationships you are experiencing. Often, the people around you may notice behaviors that you might be ignoring or minimizing. This type of insight can be enlightening and help reinforce your decision to distance yourself from toxic individuals. Therapy can also be a valid and often necessary option. Trained professionals can offer strategies and tools to deal with complex and emotionally draining situations. They can help you develop a clearer understanding of your relationships and create action plans to protect yourself. Therapy can serve as a safe space where you can explore your feelings without judgment, which is essential for the healing process. Finally, understanding that seeking support is not a sign of weakness, but rather a demonstration of strength and self-care is fundamental. Engaging with people who support and encourage you not only helps you cope better with the situation, but also contributes to your personal growth. Life is too difficult to face alone, and having a support network can make all the difference in your journey. Intimidation and threats are some of the most common tools used by malicious people to control their victims. Often these tactics are subtle and may not be immediately recognized. What may start as a criticism or seemingly harmless observation can, over time, evolve into a pattern of intimidation. If you constantly feel watched or have the impression that your freedom of action is being restricted, it is a warning sign that should not be ignored. These individuals know how to manipulate fear and insecurity. They may make veiled or explicit threats, creating an atmosphere of fear that makes you hesitate to act. This strategy is effective because when we are afraid, our ability to think rationally can be compromised. This makes them even more powerful in their control tactics, causing you to feel unable to react or oppose what is happening. Another form of intimidation is the use of misinformation. Malicious people often spread rumors or lies to discredit their victims and put them in a vulnerable position. This tactic can be devastating, as it not only affects your reputation, but can also lead to even greater social isolation. If you notice that someone is trying to manipulate how others perceive you, it is time to reconsider that relationship and possibly distance yourself. Furthermore, intimidation can manifest in more subtle ways, such as gaslighting. This technique involves making the victim doubt their own sanity or perception of reality. If you frequently feel confused, questioning your own memories or feelings, it is a sign that you may be dealing with someone who uses this tactic. Gaslighting is an insidious form of control that can have lasting consequences on a person's mental health. Lastly, it is crucial to remember that you are not alone, and that there are resources available to help you deal with these situations. Seeking support and being aware of your options is essential. Intimidation and threats are unacceptable behaviors, and you deserve to be in a safe and respectful environment where you can live fully, without fear of retaliation or control. So everyone, now that we have discussed the signs of malicious people, I want you to look around you. Have you noticed someone who fits any of these behaviors? It is essential to always be alert, because we never know who might be around us with dubious intentions. And if you have found yourself in such a situation, how did you react? Share your experiences in the comments. Remember, identification is just the first step. Don't be afraid to set boundaries and distance yourself from those who do not do you good. Life is too short to deal with people who drain your energy. You deserve to surround yourself with those who truly value and support you. Speaking of support, have you thought about seeking professional help? Sometimes an outside perspective can make all the difference. Don't face this battle alone. Before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, because we have much more valuable content coming your way. Oh, and if you're interested, check out our next video on how to protect yourself from narcissists. Stay tuned. Your mental health is a priority. And remember, you are strong and deserve the best.
See you next time!